The TREN twins and Bradley Martin talk about steroids and how bad they are and how people keep defaulting to them. But let's see what they have to say.
But you see how a lot of kids now, they go right to it, or they go right to gear in general. Right. They're not even thinking about like how long have they actually been working out, or do they diet right? That's the only thing that I'm like, damn, these kids are,
Yeah, mate, why do you think that is? And I want you, the viewer, right now to think, why do you think so many people, not just kids, but so many people in general, default to taking steroids?
For sure.
But new era, definitely you guys, like the TREN thing. I'll never forget. I remember being like, yo, every single kid is talking about TREN.
Yeah.
Now I get DMs. I'm like, should I hop on TREN at 15 years old? I'm like,
but you see how a lot of kids now, they go right to it.
Because of social media influencers. Don't get me wrong, back in the day for bodybuilding, most people probably thought that you had to take some sort of steroid to be a competitive bodybuilder, right? To step on stage and be at the Mr. Olympia. But the only people who did that were the people who wanted to do that. Nowadays, because of social media and because we see guys all the time taking steroids, including these three men on this podcast, people default to, oh, if I want to get that big, or if I want to get big in general, I'm going to have to take steroids. And by the way, I'm not saying that the TREN twins and Bradley Martin say that you have to do that. They're obviously saying the opposite to that, you know, what they're saying right now. But at the same time, people, you know, they want to speed run it. Should I use the example again? Should I use him again? Let's use Togi. I talk about this guy so often, I swear that I'm a Togi fan page at this point. But think about it. Togi started training, and for a few years, he wanted, you know, to be like a social media influencer, but he didn't want to wait the 5+, you know, almost 10 years to get that physique that the influencers have. So what did he do? He started blasting steroids just so he could become more popular. And he was like one of the first main people to start taking stuff on camera and whatnot. And of course, that gained popularity. And also that answers Bradley Martin's question as well. Why do people do it? Because steroids are glorified. It's not even a case that people see these guys and want to take steroids. It's just a case that steroids are glorified. These guys are called the TREN twins, for instance. Togi was taking a lot of steroids, and that's how he got big, and that's also how he got popular. So people, of course, are going to copy that.
I just feel bad because like they're doing all that for nothing. Because like if you don't have those things in order, it's pointless. It's not going to do shit.
Now, of course, Mike makes an interesting point there in saying that people are doing this for nothing. Of course, I think he's referring to the fact that people take steroids, their diet's crap, their training is crap, their sleep's crap, etc., and they just expect to get big just from the steroids, which, of course, that's not how it works. But at the same time, it's not all for nothing, if that makes sense. If we take that phrase in its literal sense, people are going to be taking steroids for a purpose. For instance, I see loads of people on TikTok who are just taking steroids to a smaller audience of people. They're not the size of the TREN twins or Lex Little or Sam Sulek or something like this, but they're still taking steroids in hopes that they will be.
They go right to it.
That's the purpose for them taking the gear. Of course, it's stupid, but that's what's been promoted.
So you guys like the fitness industry?
yeah, I think it's really niche. And I think...
No, not anymore. I mean, nah, bro. The way this shit has developed, like, when your era, no one's talking about roids, right? Now it's like, it's cool to be a degenerate and fucking, like, be on all this shit. And,
well, who
like,
started that?
Yeah, I mean, we always said don't take this shit, though. Now it's like, it don't even matter, bro. Like, to even have a chance, you got to be on this shit. Like,
yeah, do you guys think you started that?
I hope not, motherfucker. I hope not. We were the first, bro. That's, I feel like, why we also got, like, hella, like, subscribers.
And of course, let's link this to someone that I love talking about, Togi. So, for instance, this guy, he was training, you know, a couple years, and he wanted to be a social media influencer, right? But he didn't want to wait as long as someone like Lex Little did in training. He wanted to obviously still build a great physique, but he also just wanted it now. So what did he do? He started taking steroids and posting about it. And of course, because he got big off of that, people are going to want to replicate that. And what was his success built off of? Steroids. Of course, a lot of it was his personality as well, but you get my point. People see that it's the steroids that got him popular. And now, for instance, if I started making videos where I started, you know, sniffing creatine, as Greg would say, doing lines off of my laptop, for instance, and then mirroring that with me getting a sick workout in and me friggin' in the gym, like pumped, then people are probably going to see that and start looking for their nearest Charlie dealer where they can do the exact same thing that I'm going to do. And so to link in with what Chris was saying there, as well as what Bradley Martin was saying there, why are people doing it? Because that's what they see online.
Training.
Well, they'll take it and then they'll start comparing themselves to other people on steroids. Now you've entered that category. No matter what little amount, now you're being compared to motherfuckers on steroids. You're being compared to prime Ronnie Coleman. It doesn't matter. Anyways, and then they take it and they think they're going to get huge, whatever, no side effects. You know, months go by, you're getting big, and then you look back a year later, your fucking hairlines are receded, you're depressed, you don't know what the fuck is going on with your hormones. You regret it.
Mike makes a good point there. First of all, of course, you're going to be compared naturally in yourself, but also other people are going to compare you to other people who are taking steroids. Now, for instance, people think that if you take a steroid, that you're going to look amazing. Even if your diet and stuff is on, that's not how it works. Some people take steroids and they have very minimal side effects. Other people take steroids and they have loads of side effects. Some people are in the middle. The point being that if you take steroids, you're not all going to get the same result. You're not going to look like Ronnie Coleman, as Mike said. You're not going to look like an Olympia level guy. You probably won't, or maybe won't, look like the guys that you see on social media as well. A Togi, a TREN twin, a Sam Sulek. But again, that's what people think that they're going to look like. I'm actually thankful here that Mike's talking about the side effects of steroids. Of course, the hairline going back and stuff like that. You know, people don't talk about this stuff at all. And actually, wait, here's a side note. I made a video recently on my Instagram and TikTok and whatnot about Andrei Smyev. This guy is about 27 years old, but he looks about middle-aged, bro. And of course, that's because of the gear that he's using. Of course, from the neck down, he has an amazing physique for bodybuilding, for strongman, whatever. He's incredibly strong, small waist, large clavicles. He's a tall guy, I think. You know, great physique. People want to have that physique. But then, of course, if you look from the neck up and you see his face, I'm sure that's going to put a lot of people off of looking like him. And that should put a lot of people off from taking steroids in general. Now, of course, there are levels to it. Andre might be blasting. And if you take smaller amounts, you're going to have less side effects. But, you know, still.
So that's literally like 90% of people, people's experience with steroids. It's not just, oh, you take it, you get this extreme confidence, you know, your sex drives up. Yeah, that's true. But now you're jerking off to weird ass porn. Not me personally.
Okay, well, we're not going to go any further than that. But listen, right, he makes a good point in saying as well that that is about 90% of people's experiences. The guys that you see online are like 0.1 genetics, but also 0.1 steroid reactions as well, if that makes sense. So they've reacted to it well. Now, of course, there are things that you can do preemptively to make sure that you react to them well, doing gene tests and whatnot. But most people just don't do that. They just buy it online, no doctor's advice, no whatever, and they just start taking it. And of course, that leads to a bunch of stories that we'll never hear. Most people who are on steroids will never know. Not because they're not on social media, but because they just take steroids in general to get big. And, you know, they may suffer bad health issues because of it. Now, the mad thing is I don't have any credentials, really. I'm not someone like TNF who coaches like people for bodybuilding shows. I'm not someone who studies the studies like Jeff Nippert does. I'm not Greg Doucette. But, you know, it doesn't take a flipping genius to understand the side effects and issues that come with steroids. It literally just takes a few Google searches. It takes ChatGPT in its one search. It takes going on TikTok and seeing the side effects that people experience, right? But at the same time, most people wouldn't even do that. They don't even get showed that. They get showed the benefits and the positives to taking steroids. You know, the people who are very rich off of the back of social media, which of course links into why they were big, which was again because of their physique. And how did they get that? Because of steroids. Look at people who have blown up recently. People like Genetic Anomaly. People like, I'm trying to think of someone. Sam Sulek, of course, that was a bit of a while ago, but still, he blew up because of his physique, and that links to steroids. Yes, Sam Sulek had side effects, but let's just be honest for a second. Sam Sulek had bad skin, and he had some acne, which he's got sorted out because he probably took Accutane or something like that, right? Or it just wore off because he took less of a dose. That is kind of minor when you compare to what could happen from taking steroids. But again, we don't see the bad side effects of things when it comes to steroids. We only see the good side effects, and people want that. So what do? They default to taking something. I think there's something that we'll never learn from unless something like really bad happens in the fitness industry. But at the end of the day, I think the TREN twins here are right in saying the side effects of it and discouraging people from taking it, because it's a kind of a do as I say and not as I do type situation. Yet, yeah, people aren't going to listen to them, are they?
They go right to it.